Hey folks, it's Ardwulf. Welcome. We're going to do an unboxing today. Let me first of all apologize for the background noise. That's the air conditioner, which we definitely need to have running at this point. So what we have here is the newly released Death Valley Battles for the Shenandoah. This is volume 7 in the Great Battles of the American Civil War series. The current iteration of the series is from GMT. And it's all more or less the same system. This system did originate with the classic SPI Terrible Swift Sword, but the system has changed somewhat since that original iteration. It was published at one point by TSR, who did at least three things, maybe four, that I can think of. TSR did a reprint of Terrible Swift Sword. They also did a clash of bayonets, or a gleam of bayonets, which was the Battle of Antietam. And they did Rebel Sabers, which, among other things, included some cavalry battles and included an expansion to Terrible Swift Sword that would let you play out some cavalry engagements with some additional maps that would tack on to the Terrible Swift Sword battle maps. So what we have here is a big, thick GMT 3-inch box. Thank you, GMT, for starting to make the 3-inch box a little bit more standard. And what we have here that I see is complexity 7, which honestly seems high to me, given that I have played this system, and solitaire suitability 7, which seems about right, because this is a chit pull system and therefore is relatively suitable for solitaire play. I see 2 battle booklets, 2 CRT cards, 7 counter sheets, 3 full-size double-sided maps, and 2 half-size double-sided maps, plus a series rulebook and an activation and turn marker chart. Now, I will offer some commentary on the GMT iteration of the Great Battles of the American Civil War system, which of course was originally designed by the newly departed Richard Burke. We played 3 Days Gettysburg a few months back, and we played the whole first day, and we ended up, we liked it. It played well. That box is pretty tight here. This particular game is designed by Greg Laubach, and this, of course, is the Shenandoah Valley campaigns of 1862 and 1864. There should be a great deal of play value in this box. If I can get it open. Wow. Okay. So thick. This new style GMT super thick box stock is in evidence here, which I am perfectly happy with. One of the complaints that we had was that given the level, the age of the system, we didn't feel it was justified that the rule book would be as disorganized as it was. Not that it was monumentally disorganized. It's pretty far from the and we were playing out of the most recent rules that were on the GMT website at the time. It wasn't monumentally disorganized. I've certainly seen more disorganized or more poorly organized rule books, but there were a lot of things that were little corner cases that were nevertheless going to come up in every game sooner or later, that we had a hard time finding references for. I am told that this book is fully reorganized, and it is 40 pages, which I'm pretty sure is thicker than the old rule book. It's 2019 edition, so we're up to full color now, and we're also on a pretty nice stock, not super duper heavy, but not super duper light either. This is a matte finish stock. Offhand, it does look revised at a glance, but obviously don't take my word for that. I'm literally just glancing at it. Yeah, there definitely seems to be some more examples and definitely more illustrations. And not that it's richly illustrated, really. So it looks like we have a revised rulebook. So I'm very interested in going through this. And we have an index. Yay, index. Thank you, GMT, for the index. Here we have series game credits. Series designer Richard Berg, series developer Bill Byrne, series co-developer Greg Laubach. The developer of this game, or designer of this game, is Greg Laubach as well. Art director Roger McGowan. Counter illustrations by, this is kind of a mouthful, Roger McGowan, Charlie Kibler, Mark Simonich, and Greg Laubach. And package designed by Roger McGowan, which is not surprising. So we have a battle book. We have 2 of these in here. We have one for 1862 and one for 1864. I wonder why they didn't put pictures on the front of the 1864 one. 1862 is 24 pages. We get color scans of the counter sheets, which is always nice to have. And we have in here some game-specific rules. Looks like roughly 6 pages of those. And then we have scenarios. Now, one of the things that attracted me to this particular volume is that there's a lot of battles in here. We have Kernstown, we have Winchester, we have Cross Keys and Port Republic. And it looks like we have some variants on each of those. I found setup to be vague, too, in Gettysburg. And fortunately, well, not even setup so much as the reinforcement chart I found unnecessarily vague for 3 days of Gettysburg. Gettysburg, we start with the traditional start, where there's hardly any units on the map. 1864 battle book is noticeably thicker. This is 48 pages of the colored map of Virginia on the back, and again we have some counter sheet scans. In here we have what looks like about 8 pages of game-specific rules, 7 pages, and we have the battles of Newmarket, 2nd Kernstown, 3rd Winchester, Fisher's Hill, and Cedar Creek. Without leafing through the battle books, it looks pretty well organized. Let's take a look at one of the setups. Here's our setup. It looks like we have multiple scenarios for each battle. Is that an accurate statement? Yeah, it does kind of look like that, doesn't it? That's cool. So I was not concerned at all about the amount of play value that would appear in this box. So we have 2 GMT 10-sided dice. Thoughtfully, they have been included in blue and gray, which is great. We also have 2 counter trays. Now, it is not typical of GMT to include counter trays in their boxed games, which is unfortunate. That's something that I miss. I'd like to see more games go to the counter trays included in the game. I do not know and don't necessarily think that 2 counter trays will necessarily fit the entire game. But once I punch the counters, I should be able to get a 3rd counter tray in, and I think I can get that in. I can fit 3 days of Gettysburg in 2 counter trays. So this series packs down fairly well. Holy cow! Okay, so what we have is some play aids. We have cards for the different scenarios, and here's like a general 1st Winchester, Union and Confederate. And then on the back we have 2nd Kernstown, where we have our sort of organizational displays. So that's cool. These certainly are a lot nicer looking than the ones from 3 days of Gettysburg, the last printing of which was some time ago. We have 3rd Winchester, Union and Confederate. Cedar Creek, Union and Confederate. So I wonder if the color coding matches the color coding on the counters. That would be awesome if it does. I don't think I can pick through that and keep the video to a reasonable length. Newmarket. So there's like a ton of displays here. There's a ton of battles in here, and each battle looks like it has its own set of displays. There's 1st Kernstown, Fisher's Hill. That looks pretty great. So there is a noticeable increase in the component standard here, not just in terms of visual quality, but in terms of what looks like usability, because the units are color-coded, and in the previous game that we played, 3 days of Gettysburg, the charts, the displays are all in black and white. So I actually thought of making new ones just for that, but then I would have color matching questions and that kind of thing. So we have 2 TEC/second disorder table. Second disorder table is basically where you do your real meaty damage. You disorder a unit, and then if it's already disordered and it takes another disorder, then depending on what caused the second disorder, you'll have various effects, which usually result in a roll of some kind, and sometimes the unit will rout or lose additional strength points. Here's the other player aids. We have our rally table. This all looks quite familiar. Fire table is essentially the same. Range effects for, of course, small arms and artillery. We have shock combat, and we have a shock resolution procedure. I'm glad they put this on the card, because we had to go through this a bunch of times before we got it down. So these are identical. And then we have a big stack of counter sheets. We have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 counter sheets. That is a lot of counters, and a big stack of maps too. So I want to see whether these are split or not. So looking at the counters, how are these organized? So these are just organized strictly 1 through 7. So we would have to go through probably and organize by battle, and I don't know if you get enough counters to not have duplicates. That may be the case, I don't know. It would be nice if one could sort each battle out separately and not have to dig into other battles. At a glance, that doesn't appear to be the case. So here we have our general Great Battles of the American Civil War markers. Some new open order markers. We did not have those before. Low ammo markers. Now, the ammo, I think, is an optional rule, but I see no reason why you would want to not play with it. 3 Days of Gettysburg did not include ammo markers. You had to poach them from another game in the series, which is intensely annoying. I will also point out that these are on the thick brown core GMT stock, which I prefer over the thinner white core ones. And we have a sheet of strength markers. These are used to track unit losses. There may be sheets to do that with in here somewhere too, I don't know. Old school has you doing it on sheets, and of course you have breastworks and breastworks under construction markers, which we did see quite a bit of breastwork building in Gettysburg. The effects of breastworks on combat in this system are not that great, and we have some very attractive, what look like Roger McGowan maps to me. I don't know if that's true. Map art by Charlie Kibler and Greg Laubach. Okay, so they're probably all the same. So very attractive maps. These are all double-sided. So here we have 3rd Winchester. I'm fine with double-sided maps, and honestly, I'm fine with non-mounted maps as well. So what we have here are 5 maps. We have 3 full-size maps. Here's Fisher's Hill. I really like this sort of striking dark background on these two. It's the kind of thing that if I try to print on my home printer, it eats up all my toner. Here's Cedar Creek, October 19th, 1864. I also hope that they consistently name the rivers, the flowing water. And we do have 2 half-size maps here, too. Another attractive thing is that we have half-size maps. This is 1st Winchester. Does this mate with another map, I wonder? I suspect that it does. And then on the back of that, we have the self-contained Port Republic map. And then the other half-size is Cross Keys, which is perhaps not surprising. And on the back of that, we have Newmarket. So we have 3 half-size maps, and another half-size map that matches up to a full-size map for 1st Winchester, which I know very little about any of these engagements. So I cannot speculate as to what battle was the biggest and what battle was the smallest. What I can tell you is that the 62 campaign is Stonewall Jackson's legendary Valley campaign, and the 64 campaign should be Sheridan's Union campaign in the Valley. So quite a lot of stuff here in Death Valley. It is my opinion, and this may reflect the nature of the Battle of Gettysburg more than it reflects anything about the system, that this system will do better for these battles and feel more comfortable for these battles rather than for Gettysburg, where I felt like it got quite clumsy once we got into late first day, when we had a lot of troops on the board. We had a ton of activation markers in the cup. I think this will do better. But again, that may be a function of Gettysburg more than the Great Battles of the American Civil War system. We do like the system. We had a good time with it. I definitely intend to get this to the table at some point. So, this has been an unboxing of Death Valley Battles for the Shenandoah from designer Greg Laubach and series designer Richard Bird from GMT Games. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.